Do you prefer to ride alone or with other riders? That's what we're going to cover on this video. Everything here is based on my personal experience. The last motorcycle trips or the longer motorcycle trips I've done, lasting between 2 to 3 weeks, have always been with friends. But before that, I used to always ride alone. And there are some pros and cons to both. And I hope that if you're planning to go with friends on your next trip, then this video is really going to help you out. At least that's what I hope, because it can add a little bit of complication and stress sometimes, but overall I still think it's a good decision. Let's start with the pros, and I think there are two main pros. So the pro number one is going to be, it's just more fun. You're going to laugh more and have more fun. Especially that's where I feel that you get the most enjoyment out of it is in the evening. You go to the hotel, go to a restaurant, to just have friends around is always going to be much more fun. And the next point that is a huge plus, and that's one of the main reasons why today, when I go on a longer motorcycle trip, especially if it is off-road, isolated locations, so adventure type of trips, you are serving more or less as an insurance policy for each other. That means that you are there to help each other in case something goes wrong, either an injury to a rider or the motorcycle breaks down. You are there to cover for each other. But still connected with this topic, I think it's really worth that you set some ground rules in advance. So what are the ground rules that I have when I go with my friends? So actually that we all agree when we go together. Number one, we don't leave anyone behind in case of an injury. And what I mean by that is, if a rider has a crash, an incident, and they need help to get to a safe location, we are going to help him out. No exception about that. However, this does not mean that the trip has to end for everybody else, okay? And I think you need to make this very clear. All we are going to do is, if I broke my leg, I would expect my friends to just help me to get to a safe location, to a hospital, to a doctor, get my motorcycle as well to a safe location. But it doesn't mean that I expect everybody else now to say, well, my trip is over, so everybody else's trip also has to end now. So that's not the case. So it's just bring to a safe location. And the same applies in case there is a failure with a motorcycle, technical failure with a motorcycle. So set these ground rules. These are the main advantages from my point of view. And as far as we discuss in advance the expectations, it should be good to go. Now, when we talk about riding with other people, with other riders, then you have to understand that there will be different wishes for everybody. So it's going to add a lot of social complexity. So let's touch the point number one in here of the challenges. You should define in advance when you start riding and when you end the riding day. Why is that important? I'm a very late person. I like to go to bed, let's say after, pretty much every day is after midnight. So 1 to 2 a.m., that's when I go to bed, and I also wake up late. However, when I'm on a motorcycle trip, then I change this style. It's a bit hard at the beginning because I'm always sleeping quite late, but I adapt when I'm riding. Then I like to wake up between 6 and 7 a.m., have breakfast, and be ready to go between 7 and 8 a.m. Latest by 8 a.m., in my opinion, when I'm riding, it's better to be already on the road. So get this straight from the beginning, because some people can be quite grumpy when they in the morning, so there is a bit of a bad mood. And if you get to a trip where no one spoke about when we are going to wake up, maybe there's a guy, he's thinking, now let's just wake up at 10 a.m. and start riding. And you have in your head, I'm putting the alarm clock at 6 a.m. That's no good news. The guy that was expecting to wake up at 10 a.m. is going to be pissed at you, because why you're already putting pressure and rushing everything. Let's take our time. So discuss in advance when do you want to start riding, and about ending the ride, the end of the riding day. The rules that we like to do is more or less like this. When it gets to 4 p.m., we are going to stop riding, wherever place we are at 4 p.m. We're going to look at our route, we're going to search for the closest city, find a hotel, and divert to that location. This means that sometimes we could be just 30 minutes away from a city where there's a hotel. So then by 4:30, 5 p.m., the day is over. But it also means that some days we are in an isolated location, no access to hotels. So we have to ride another 2 to 3 hours until we find a hotel. But the point is, around 4 p.m., that's when we say, okay, let's stop, take a look at our map, and get back to civilization. So set the starting point and the end point, and if everybody agrees, it doesn't have to be 6 a.m., could be a different time, but the important thing is that you discuss in advance what are the expectations about waking up and ending the riding day. Okay, the next point that I think you should discuss in advance is about expectations when it comes to accommodation. Number one, are you going to be camping or taking hotels, bed and breakfasts, and so on? Of course, you have to take for granted that if you want to do camping, then everybody needs to know in advance so you can carry the proper gear for camping. But also, do you want to camp a lot or just a couple of times or just one time if necessary? So have expectations set if this is going to be more of a camping trip or if that's just the camping is just a way for you to get most out of your ridings, and also the type of hotels that you want to take. Let's use here a personal example. I'm quite straightforward. What would be for me a good hotel? So a good hotel or bed and breakfast is going to be something that is close to the route that we are riding, cheap, has some basic breakfast already included, that would be the best, has good Wi-Fi, it's clean enough, nothing fancy, it just has to be clean, have a shower and a good bed, that's okay, and it has a place for me to park my motorcycle. If somehow I can put my motorcycle inside, then that's even perfect. And nearby, it's nice when there is a restaurant to eat in the evening, or maybe already has a restaurant inside. That's what I need, okay? So I'm not expecting to have a swimming pool, a sauna, jacuzzi, a luxury style, a good view. I don't need any of that. But set this in advance in order to avoid a discussion in the middle of your trip. Let's move now to topic number 3, and that's going to be expectations when it comes to eating and the types of restaurants. So let's go back to personal example in here. When I'm riding, I like to have a good breakfast. Doesn't have to be fancy, just a good breakfast. I'm totally fine to skip lunch or maybe just have a quick snack. I buy something on the supermarket, just an energy bar or something like this, and that's my lunch, and I'm just riding the whole day. When it gets to the evening, time to have dinner, then my preference is to have a good dinner. Then I like to go to a restaurant and just eat the way I just feel comfortable. Whatever I want that I'm going to enjoy that evening, and I can be 2 to 3 hours in the restaurant, I love to do that. Also set the expectations for the level, especially we connected to money, the type of restaurants that you want to go. If I'm on the road for 2 to 3 weeks, sometimes you're going to pass by a touristic place, or a place that is really worth for you to spend more time. And when I get to such cities, then I'm willing to spend a little bit more on for the restaurant. So go a little bit more fancy, really enjoy the food, something very tasty where everybody can have a good time. I'm willing to do that. But I don't want to do this every night. So I would say that 80% of the nights, it is just to get some food. Want to be tasty, should be good, but it's more on the budget side, something more simple. Then about 20% of the time, it's okay, let's just go and spend a bit of extra money to have a very good meal, something that is very tasty that we are going to remember, but I don't want to do this every day. So set also the expectations when it comes to that. And since we're talking about money, let's discuss the day-to-day logistics of it. So if I look in our last trip, we were riding 3 guys. Pretty much I was more or less responsible for paying for the food. When I say paying for the food, that's just when you're there on the restaurant. So we don't want to get the bill and then everybody pays separate. It's just easier to say as the bill and pay for everything. And I'm keeping track of that. The other guy was responsible for the hotel booking. Maybe you're using some kind of an app or a platform to book your hotels. We were using booking.com. And there's going to be one account. So it doesn't make sense that everybody has their account and everybody's booking separately. So he was searching for the hotels, making the booking with his credit card, and he paid for everything. So he's keeping track of that. And the other guy was responsible then for the day-to-day stuff. When we stopped at the petrol station, primarily, we're just filling up. If we got anything at the petrol station, a quick coffee, there was one guy taking care of that. Everybody keeps track of this at the end of the trip, or maybe after 5 days, something like this. We just see where we are with the expenses and then we transfer each other the money. The next point is going to be make sure that everybody has an idea what is the route that you're going to be doing. So let me give you a real example based on our last trip. Our last trip we have done Hungary and Croatia. And Croatia is famous for having a pretty good seaside. And what we don't want to happen is that when we get to the seaside, someone is already expecting, oh, we are going to spend 1 to 2 days there at the beach just for swimming, which is a very nice idea. Of course, that's very nice, but it could be that you have different expectations. So if I look the way I like to ride, I'm 90% focused on the riding. I'm not really focused on being a tourist or relaxing during this time. I want to get a lot of riding done. Definitely, if we're at a good place and we've done that, I'm willing to stop 1 to 2 days, go to the beach and spend some time in there. But I'm looking forward to get back riding. And you could have a friend of yours that maybe they're expecting that every 2 to 3 days of riding, we go to a touristic place and now we're going to be a tourist for 1 to 2 days. And we keep repeating that. Connected with checking the route, it comes the navigation. I know some people like to split who is going to be in charge of the navigation, and that's also fine. At least the way I like to do it, usually we have a person responsible for navigation for the entire day. So you could split in the sense that today it's your turn, next day is someone else.
Can we continue?
And that's important to split because it's nicer to have a group where everybody can take a little bit of responsibility. It's also not fair to just rely on one guy for the entire trip. Okay, let's move to the next one, and it's one that I think it's very important that you have at least one person in the group, and it's better if it's more, but at least one person in the group who has a little bit more mechanical, electrical skills. And that's the guy you're going to look up to in case there's a problem with your motorcycle. Because, if everybody there has completely, has zero knowledge about taking care of the motorcycle, if anything goes wrong, now you're already stuck. And you can expect, if you're doing adventure style motorcycle riding, you might drop the motorcycle and you need to fix something. You need to have someone who is able to navigate this topic and also define who is going to be bringing tools. So our last trip, a friend of mine had a 300 Rally, I had a 300L, so we pretty much share 100% the tools. These are the same tools, but the other one had a Royal Enfield Himalayan, so he needed a different set of tools. So before we went on the trip, he had his own toolkit that included some tools that I didn't have. You don't need to duplicate the tools. Not everybody needs to carry a toolkit, but you should have sufficient tools for the motorcycles that you have. Okay, let's move to the next one, is the size of the group. For me, the ideal scenario in here is going to be up to 3 riders. So myself and another 2 riders. I think that's a sweet spot. Could I stretch to 4? Yes, maybe 5. I don't think I would like to ride with 5 riders. I think starts to get too messy because everything that I said in here before, you see that there is no right or wrong, right? I can't say that I'm right, my friend is wrong, my friend is right. It's nothing like this. This is just a matter of opinion and how you go about your motorcycle trip. And the more people you add, more variables and more compromises might be needed. But I think if you stick to around 3, that's at least for me, I think everything is more or less manageable if you discuss in advance. And just to finalize this list, a few practical tips for you to consider. I think it's interesting that everybody knows what is the fuel range of everybody's motorcycles. It is quite useful to have some useful hand signs or hand gestures that you use with each other. So when I needed to refuel, I usually would just overtake my friend who was doing the navigation, and I would just point to my fuel tank. So then he already knows, okay, the next opportunity we need to stop to refuel. And having the hand gestures, they do help. There's definitely more. That's not a comprehensive list. The more you ride in your group, the more you're going to find out. But if you have any tips, you can leave here a comment and share with other riders. That's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Ride safe. Bye-bye.